The morning had started like any other, but the moment Sarah stepped out of the crumbling apartment building where she lived with her mother, she felt a heaviness in the air that she couldn't explain. It was the kind of weight that sits in your chest before life decides to twist in a direction you never imagined. She had only $7 left in her pocket, money her mother had pressed into her hand with a tired smile, telling her it was enough to get to her part-time job across town. But as Sarah walked toward the bus stop, she couldn't shake the feeling that today would test her in ways she wasn't prepared for. And she had no idea that the small choice she was about to make would ripple into something larger than anything she'd ever known, something that would reach back into her past and change her future forever. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of doing good even when no one is watching, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel right now. Your support means everything. Sarah lived in a quiet corner of Denver, Colorado, where people moved fast and looked past each other as if eye contact cost money. Her mother, Karen, worked as a maid in a downtown hotel, scrubbing floors and changing sheets until her back ached, yet never once complaining about the long hours because it kept food on their table. Sarah admired her fiercely, even though life felt like a constant uphill climb. Every day after school and on weekends, Sarah worked at a small bakery, saving every dollar she could in the hope of one day attending community college. Between her mother's exhaustion and their never-ending bills, dreams were fragile things, thin enough to break with a single bad month. That morning, as Sarah waited for the bus, the cold breeze blew against her face, carrying with it the smell of distant rain. She hugged her backpack close, thinking about her plans for the day, when she noticed an elderly woman standing near the bench. The woman was small and frail, wrapped in an oversized coat that looked older than she was. She held a worn leather purse in trembling hands, digging through it with growing panic as people around her stepped onto the arriving bus. Something in her defeated posture made Sarah feel an instant pull in her chest. The woman stepped aside as the driver asked for her fare, and Sarah saw the heartbreak in her eyes, an expression she recognized because she had seen it on her own mother many times. It was the look of someone who was one unexpected problem away from falling apart. Without thinking, without calculating her own losses, Sarah stepped forward and gently tapped the driver, handing over her own money. $7 gone in an instant. Her entire fare for the day vanished as the old woman looked up at her with stunned, glassy eyes. Sarah simply nodded, forcing a reassuring smile, even though her stomach was twisting at the thought of how she would get to work now. But she told herself that kindness, even when painful, was always the right choice. The bus pulled away from the curb, leaving Sarah standing alone. She tried calling the bakery to say she would be late, but no one picked up. With no choice left, she began to walk the long stretch of road toward downtown. The sky darkened as she walked, and halfway through the trip, rain began to fall in thin, cold sheets. Within minutes, she was soaked. Her shoes squished with every step, her backpack clung heavily to her shoulders, and by the time she finally reached the bakery, the manager met her with a frustrated expression. He didn't want excuses, only punctuality. Sarah was sent home without pay for the day, a punishment that stung far deeper than she expected. As she stepped back into the rain, she wondered if she had made a foolish mistake helping the woman on the bus. But as quickly as the thought came, she buried it. Some choices, she believed, shouldn't depend on what you get back. The next morning, her mother received a call she wasn't expecting. The manager of the hotel where she worked told her someone important wanted to speak to her. Confused and nervous, Karen took Sarah along for support as they made their way to the downtown hotel. When they entered the lobby, they were met with a sight that felt unreal. The same elderly woman from the bus, washed, well-dressed, and standing tall with a gentle smile, approached them with warmth in her eyes. Sarah froze, unable to process what she was seeing. The woman introduced herself as Margaret Whitford, the owner of the hotel chain where Karen worked, the billionaire businesswoman whose face Sarah had seen only on TV and news articles. The woman Sarah had helped was no ordinary stranger, she was one of the wealthiest, most influential women in the state. Margaret explained that she sometimes dressed simply and traveled alone to observe how people treated others without expecting recognition. She spoke softly about how Sarah's generosity had touched her in a way she hadn't experienced in years. In a world driven by competition, hurry, and self-interest, Sarah's kindness felt like a rare gift. She turned to Karen, expressing admiration for raising a daughter with such a beautiful heart. Then, with a sincerity that left both mother and daughter speechless, Margaret offered Karen a promotion to a supervisory position, better pay, better hours, and a chance at the stability she had worked her entire life to give her daughter. And then she turned to Sarah and offered something even more life-changing, a full scholarship to the community college she dreamed of attending, along with a flexible paid internship at the hotel. Sarah felt her knees weaken. She had spent her entire life believing that people like her had to work twice as hard to get half as far. Now, because of a small act of kindness, doors she never imagined were opening before her. The gratitude, the disbelief, the overwhelming relief, all of it flooded her at once. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more soul-touching stories. Your engagement helps us keep creating meaningful content. Before we close the story, tell us in the comments below, have you ever experienced kindness from a stranger that changed your day, or changed your life? In the end, Sarah learned that kindness is never wasted. Even on days when the world feels heavy and unforgiving, even when you have little to give, compassion has a way of returning when you least expect it. The bus fare she gave away was nothing compared to what life returned to her: hope, opportunity, and the reminder that humanity still shines in unexpected places.